Alright guys, we're back for yet another Bleach Brave Souls video, and Limit Breaker Quest is upon us. It's going to be available starting March 1st, and we kind of did highlight this when we were talking about what kind of killers we can expect, but now that we have the main unit fully revealed, we can now talk about who are the best characters to bring in this type of Limit Breaker Quest. So slot 1, obviously, it's going to be catered towards the brand new Parasol Shinji, which is going to be dropping in just a matter of a few days, as it requires you to have a power attribute damage rule, melee damage rule, and a killer effect rule. And of course, the puddles are burned, in which Shinji is immune to. Slot 2, on the other hand, has you bringing Bazz-B. Yes, you're going to be bringing a Guild Quest character, but honestly speaking, considering we've had Guild Quest characters before featured into the rule set, they're not going to be too bad to use overall, since they will still have Frenzy +2, increased element chance, and whatever damage that they have at their disposal. And yeah, he fits all the rules of having power attribute damage ×2, melee damage ×2, and killer effect ×4, with the puddles being weakening. And then slot number 3, this is basically going to be for the Christmas 1000-Year Blower Retsu, but because you only need to bring a range character, you can be very flexible and bring whoever is going to be your best range character. So in this kind of case, yes, 9th Anniversary Grammy is viable again.
Oh yeah.
Shinji is once again the character that is going to be used for slot number 1 because he has no affiliation killer, he is a melee character, he is a power character, and this guy is pretty dominant at that. He does have an EX move which has a very high chance of inflicting Dominate Plus against the enemies, and also comes with a crap ton of different multipliers, such as having Frenzy +2, Berserker 80%, Marauder, Havoc, and of course he already has 100% damage to dominate enemies, and will be able to buff every single character's status element affected enemies by 20%, which is a pretty big game changer. It'll allow every single one of your units to do 20% more damage once you proc an element, which is pretty damn insane, and also has Poise Break, so this guy will still be able to stop the enemy mobs from attacking you, as well as, of course, having the typical skill set that you would expect out of a Limit Breaker character. Just no Long Stride, so just make sure that you give him Long Stride once you get this guy to T20 alongside full stamina damage boost. Bazz-B, like I said before, is a Guild Quest character, but honestly speaking, even with the fact that you're going to be bringing this Guild Quest based character into Limit Breaker Quest, he'll just be fine completely, as he'll have most of his skill set available to you, since he does have Sprinter +1, Marauder, Havoc, and also has Frenzy +2 outside of Guild Quest, with 80% SP boost, and of course has damage to burning enemies of 80%. Now, he doesn't have Berserker, but realistically speaking, you kind of don't really need to worry about it too much, because he does have increased element chance against Soul Reaper enemy mobs, so you're gonna always be sure to get that 8% damage increase at all times when it comes to proccing with your strong attacks. He'll be fine to use, and he'll still have, of course, the extra killer effect outside of Guild Quest, and a bit of melee damage here and there. So yeah, he does get 30% plus, of course, 40 from the killer effect. So this guy's going to be the best character to use for slot number 2. For slot number 3, this Retsu is also going to be great to use regardless of all things. Just like Bazz-B, he is a Guild Quest character, but is a bit better because she doesn't really do most of her damage from proccing the elements. Rather, she just has Frenzy +2 with 55% full stamina damage boost, and the 80% SP boost, with, of course, the extra killer effect, and a bit of range damage as well, and, of course, has a pretty solid Soul Bomb at that, and can pretty much heal your allies should you get hit with any one of them just by activating the EX move, and she'll still be a good character to use, but there are gonna be plenty of other alternatives that you can use over this character, which we're gonna discuss soon once we break down who are the alternative characters to use for slot number 1 and slot number 2. So with that being said, let's see what kind of alternatives we can make use out of. Alright guys, so starting off with the alternatives for slot number 1, who are the characters that share the same exact amount of rules as the new Shinji? Well, let's find out. So we filtered for power, no affiliation killer, and melee. So what do we have at our disposal? Well, sadly, the only viable one would have to be this Neliel right here. The only bad thing about this unit is that, just like Bazz-B, where she lacks Berserker, it's a bit worse because she only has Frenzy +2 with 40% damage to weaken enemies and does not have access to the SP boost, meaning that you might want to resort using the Masaki link on her to do a bit more damage, and it can work to some extent, but you will need to have a character that can provide a recharge for this character right here if you want to be able to breeze through the quest itself. So there's that. She can work if she's max transcended, but I don't know about 1.5 or 2.5. I think it'll be a bit annoying when it comes to using this character overall. Sadly, when it comes to power no affiliation killers that are melee, this is the only solid-ish unit that you can bring. I would not really recommend any of these other characters right here, as their DPS is just way too outdated. They don't even have a good kit at that too, so I would not really recommend that at all. But now, let's just go ahead and broaden our lineup and see what we can make use out of in case the unit was not only melee. It doesn't help as much. Like, 8th Annie Ichigo, you can use him, but his DPS is just way too outdated because he only has Frenzy +3 with 20% full stamina damage boost. Same problem as this Neliel right here, where he lacks the spiritual pressure boost, but on top of that, his SA1 is actually terrible. The 18% shave. You do not want to have that on this character right here at all. I'm sorry to say this, but no. Okay, now, what about overall power melee characters? What can we use? Let us find out. Okay, the options are already a lot better because we have access to 3 different characters that we can make use out of. And these characters, I can say that you can use as alternatives for slot number 2 as well. And it's Bankai Senjumaru, Soifun, and Mugetsu. But realistically speaking, I think you guys want to bring this Soifun right here because she will at least be able to fulfill half of the rules, and once you build up her defeated enemy bonus, you're giving everyone else recharge into their strong attacks, which is good. Free cooldowns into the character's strong attacks when moving in between the quest areas. And on top of that, she is a team booster with the SA2, and will be able to help support the entire team, making her a good team player. Now, the only problem when it comes to using this character is, 1, she does not inflict on the SA2, so you gotta be very careful when it comes to playing as her. And 2, the lack of guard break is gonna kind of hurt her here, especially when she does not have killer and is missing all that extra damage that she can make out of her disposal. Like, once you hit the enemies and break their guards, some of the damage is reduced, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. But this character is obviously going to be a better alternative to use for slot 1 overall when it comes to talking about power melee characters overall. And if you're not a fan of using Soifun, well, here's another good alternative that you can use. Mugetsu. Now, unfortunately, Mugetsu does not have any of the same utilities that Soifun will have, such as providing recharge to the entire team and being able to boost. But this guy should be a little bit more consistent when it comes to DPS because this guy does have Marauder, so he is not going to get any of his damage reduced at all, and still comes armed with a pretty solid DPS set, being Frenzy +2, 50% Berserker. Also has this, by the way, Team Party Strong Attack damage of 20%, meaning that as long as you have this guy on your team, he'll still be able to support everyone else and give them 20% more strong attack damage to himself and all of his other allies, even without being a link. And of course, once you do proc the weakening, you do get 40% more damage to weaken enemies, and he is still the only character that has a straight up 100% spiritual pressure boost overall. And considering this guy is premium, most of you guys will probably have already pulled this character from tickets like I did, and most of you guys will already have this character because you can literally guarantee this guy once you hit step 10 on when he first debuted and when he returned. So everyone was still able to get this Mugetsu regardless of all that. You just need a 2,000 orbs, and yeah, you can use this character. I don't think he's gonna be better than Soifun support-wise, but for when it comes to using him, I think he's actually gonna be good. I'm gonna be taking my picks between Mugetsu and Soifun just because I'm not summoning for Shinji and I don't plan to go after him. So yeah. And then the third and final option would have to be Bankai Senjumaru, but more so for slot number 2. I would not really recommend using her for slot number 1 because you're going to be missing out on the increased element chance. Whereas slot 2, you face up against Soul Reapers. So Yeah, anywho, what you guys need to know is that she is a mini 9th anniversary Bremy. By that, I mean, what if 9th anniversary Bremy was made into a Guild Quest character? Yeah, this is literally what you get out of the unit. And of course, you do not have the same skill sets of being able to give other Soul Reapers 20% more damage and 30% more damage to element affected enemies. Rather, she just has Frenzy +2 with 40% Berserker, 20% full stamina damage boost, and then 80% SP boost. That's all she pretty much has with the 10% melee damage, and you're never gonna get the killer effect outside of Guild Quest because this is a captain killer. So yeah, but she does have Poise Break, so either way, she'll be able to work effectively as an alternative for slot number 1, but if you have this character, use her for slot number 2, because of the simple matter of fact that you'll have access to this. Enemies in slot number 2 are Soul Reapers, so you're gonna want to use her for slot number 2 if you do not have Bazz-B. And now, when it comes to other characters, I would not really recommend any one of these other characters right here. So pretty much your best options would be Nelio, Soifon, and Mugetsu for slot number 1 as the alternatives. So yeah, but now let's broaden up our lineup and see what we can make use out of melee no affiliation killers. And yeah, see what we have at our disposal. So here we go. Well, Oetsu, I feel like is gonna struggle because he is up against tech enemies, meaning that he is going to get his damage reduced. Now, if you guys haven't duped up, I think he should be okay to use, but my mindset says otherwise. I am gonna plan to give this guy a shot and see if he does struggle a bit, because he does fulfill half of the rules, but I don't know, man. Losing 50% of the damage is definitely gonna affect this character, so maybe not so much of a character I would recommend for slot number 1 if you guys were to have him. Yuha, if he's max transcended, sure, like you can use this character, and he does give out extra soul bombs once you have defeated 80 enemies, so it's not that bad, but his DPS is definitely on the lower side, and he just isn't as good as he once used to be, unfortunately. Limit Break Request has gotten a lot more difficult for when it comes to using this character, that to be good, he needs to have all 3 of the rules active. You can give this guy a shot, but I'm just saying, do not be surprised if he does not perform well even at max transcendence. And that's it. I cannot recommend any of the other alternatives besides the power units that we have seen, because just not using any one of these other characters except for maybe Oetsu and Yuha. Cannot recommend Concord Ichigo. Uryu is definitely a no-go now that he has typing disadvantage. So yeah, with that being said and done, I think we can move on to the alternatives for slot number 2. And realistically speaking, what I discussed earlier for slot number 1 is going to apply again. But let's first take a look at the melee Soul Reaper killers that we have at our disposal for power before getting into that. Sadly, the only quote-unquote usable character is going to be Spirits Are Forever With You Kenpachi if you guys have this guy duped up. The only thing is that he, just like the Power Nelil, which I just talked about, lacks the 80% SP boost. Pretty much it. And besides that, he does get a bit of melee damage of 10%. He only has a Frenzy +2 with full stamina, strong attack damage of 40%. So his DPS is a bit more so on the lower side. It's kind of almost the same as Nelio. The only difference is that with Nel, you proc, whereas this guy, he has it innately without needing to proc on the strong attack. So unless you guys have this guy duped up like 5-5, I think he can be okay. But 1-5, 2-5, not really. So it's going to be the same case as I stated for slot number 1. And that's it. I don't think I can really recommend anyone else. This Shinji will eventually get resurrected this year, as we keep on getting more Can't Fear Your Own World resurrections, but you're definitely not using him now, and all of these other Power Soul Reaper killers are severely outdated. And now, what about overall melee power characters? I don't need to specify anything else. It's literally the exact same answer. The only difference is that I'm putting more of a highlight on Bankai Senjumaru, because guess what? she has the increased element chance against Soul Reapers. So she'll be a lot better in slot number 2 than in slot number 1. That is pretty much it. I don't think I need to discuss this any further. Of course, if you don't have Bankai Senjumaru, just use Mugetsu in that kind of case. That's the only character I can really recommend. And now the final set of characters would have to be melee Soul Reaper killers that we can use outside of the power attribute. And sadly, the options don't really open up a lot, but you can use this True Shikai. He will have access to the increased element chance as long as Soul Reaper enemy mobs are present, and you can still get the extra damage to lacerated enemies of 60% and the damage to weakened enemies of 40%. So yeah, he only has Frenzy +2 with 20% Berserker and the increased element chance, so he can work. He's just going to be missing the typing advantage rule, but I think he's going to be an okay character to use. Of course, if you have this guy duped up, he'll be okay. If he's just 1-5-2-5, I can see him struggling in this type of limit break quest. And then I guess the last one would probably be Ichibei. He's very weak when he does not have the gauge active, but with the gauge active, he still gets an additional Frenzy with 100% Berserker. He already has it like 50% from the 6-star abilities. Like without the gauge, this guy's a fraud. He only has Frenzy +1 with 50% Berserker, I believe. Yeah, literally just that. So it's kind of be a bit annoying for when it comes to using this character, but it is an option. I'm gonna state the same case as Ichigo, but if you guys ask me, just use Ichigo over Ichibei. I have to be 100% honest with you guys. Way more SP boost. You do way more damage to element-affected enemies. Like, I don't need to state anything else. You can use Unohana, but the same case that I stated for Oetsu, I'm going to apply onto her. She is going to lose out on 50% of her damage to the point that I may not even recommend this character. I'm just saying. And that's pretty much it. Literally. The only perfect alternative would pretty much have to be Bankai Senjumaru or True Shikai Ichigo. So, yeah. But now, let's go over the flexible slot, which is slot number 3. But first, before getting into this, because we have access to Quincy enemy mobs, I do want to preface that 2 characters are going to be godly to use despite of not having the rule active, and that is going to be this Fullbring Ichigo and 1000-Year Blower Ishin. Now, Ichigo, he has basically the same defeated enemy bonus set as Yuha, but way more cracked because of the simple matter of fact that on top of giving soul bombs, he also provides extra recharge to the entire party by 15%. It's not 20%, but that 15% is more than enough to even be able to get all of your cooldowns back. I've used this Ichigo, and in the last Limit Breaker quest that we had for the end of year banner, I did not see too much of a problem with getting all of my cooldowns back at all. Like, it was still so effective when it came to getting all of my strong attacks back. And this guy, do I need to state anything else? This guy is the best unit in the game, with the fact that he has Frenzy +3, 60% Berserker, Weakening Plus, he has the 80% SP boost with increased element chance against Quincy's, Weakened Defense, Poise Break, Marauder. I already mentioned the defeated enemy bonus, but most importantly, he has the broken EX move that 9th Anniversary Kenpachi gets, where upon activating the EX move and once you proc with your status elements, he gets 360% SP boost for 10 seconds, making this guy be able to wash out the enemy mobs that have poise and have a shit ton of HP. So this guy, in my opinion, off rule, is going to be a very effective character to use. And then the next character, Ishin, while he does not fulfill the rules, this guy was better to use over the likes of Christmas Unohana when she first debuted in Limit Breaker Quest. And I can probably see that same case happening again because of the matter of fact that he has the broken combo of Burn and Lacerate. These 2 status elements together deplete so much of the enemy's HP mobs that you'll just be able to go through the quest just fine. And as you kill off 50 enemies, you'll even get Rampage built up. So yeah, you get Frenzy +2, 50% Berserker, 120% SP, and of course, once you kill 50 enemies, 100% more damage. So, yeah, this guy is going to be a very effective character. You guys might have even gotten more copies out of this character if you guys did summon on the Asnot banner. And this guy, trust, he aged so goddamn well for Limit Breaker. If you guys have him max transcended, do give him a try. I'm going to try out Ichigo, so yeah. But that's pretty much it for characters that are not ranged. Besides that, I would not recommend anyone else except for Ichigo and Isshin. But now, let's take a look at all of the ranged characters that we have at our disposal. Now, thankfully, because the enemy mobs are hearts, it means that we have access to every single character and will not have to be worried about losing 50% of our damage. Which is good. Which is very good. No cap. Now, going over the characters that you guys can make use out of. Nanana, he's an ad character. He will have increased element chance against Quincy's, but he's going to be lacking a lot of DPS to the point that I don't know if I would really recommend using him. Like, you can give him a try, but I don't think he's going to be too crazy. Askin, he'll be fine. He does have a higher damage output compared to Nanana. That being said, you will not have killer effect, so that's kind of the only minor problem when it comes to using Askin. Now, other characters that you can make use out of, you can use Giselle. Just know that you are not going to have access to the increased element chance against all the enemy mobs because we're facing up against Quincy's, not Soul Reapers. So there's that. Byakuya, same case. He's a great character, but you're not going to have increased element chance active. Toshiro, this guy can work. Probably a little bit better, because while he does not have killer, he does have the increased element chance against Quincy's, so I think this guy can still be a very effective character to use overall. So, if you guys have him, with a bit more dupes, of course, I think you guys can get away with using this character for slot number 3. Even though this guy may not have killer, he'll still be able to proc freeze like crazy. And then Shinji, the same case I said for Giselle and Byakuya, apply to him as well. Who else can we make use out of? Of course, the god of BBS, Grammy, my beloved. This guy is cracked. He has everything at his disposal. Paralysis and Drain, is able to support Quincy's if you ever were to bring any one of them. Has the EX move that Bankai Senjumaru has. Only difference is that he doesn't have any Guild Quest skills. He literally just has Frenzy +3 with 70% Berserker, and then extra 20% strong attack damage that he has to himself and all other Quincy's. And then, once you do proc elements, you get 30% more damage to element affected enemies. Now, he's not going to have the increased element chance active, because he is not up against Hollows, he is up against Quincy. But because this guy has Frenzy +3, and the stupid fucking Homing Vortex, he's going to be able to still proc regardless, and be able to get all of his DPS out. Like, this guy was so clutch in last month's Limit Breaker quest, because I had him max transcended, and he was also supporting Asnot and Bumcoal, so this guy is a fantastic alternative to use if you do not have the likes of XMas Retsu, and if you do not have the likes of Thousand Year Blower Ichigo or Isshin. And I would say that's pretty much it. Like, the last really solid option I would give is to pretty much this Valentine's Day Ruruka. Like, this character aged really nicely for Limit Breaker quest as well. No increased element chance though, but I think she'll be fine as long as she has the range damage. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Those are the best characters that you can use for Limit Breaker quest. Now, here are some of my team compositions that I'm planning to go for this one. This is the first team that I'm planning to use if I want to meet as many of the rules as possible and try to get the units to work out nicely. I'm just going to be using my 1-5 Soifon, my max transcended Bankai Senjumaru, and my max transcended Grammy, and see how to go about it from there. That being said, if I can get my full-bring Ichigo to be effective in slot number 3 and still be able to work regardless of missing the rule, then I am going to go for this and put Mugetsu in slot number 1 over Soifon, because Ichigo is already going to be providing the recharge to everyone else, and hopefully this team will be effective. Like, this is something that I can choose to go with. Of course, if you do not have full bring Ichigo like me, you can choose to use Ishin as well and be able to get away with it because of the broken ailments that he comes with. But besides that, I'm planning to use Grammy because it's motherfucking Grammy. I'm going to use him when I get the chance to. He's one of my favorite Stern Ritters, so yes, I freaking will. That about does it. Let me know who you guys are planning to bring for this type of limit breaker quest and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching. This has been your boy, the Dasmasher, and if you guys have enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, hit the bell notification, and all that good stuff, and I hope to see you guys all in the next one. So have a wonderful day, lads. Peace out. Bye. Sayonara. Ciao, ciao.